Welcome to a live on-site Cleaning and Cocktails podcast episode. So for those that don't follow the podcast, what we do is spotlight the industry. We started off first about 3 years ago with cleaning company owners, but then we started to realize we have to spotlight the entire industry, right? Manufacturers, suppliers, team members of cleaning companies. It's a very big industry. There's a lot of people to spotlight. I'm excited to get to bring you guys on. Frank, like you're like a regular on the podcast. I feel like you've been on 3 times. But we're going to get things started. And Frank, with you, because I don't know if you guys heard a little bit about how me and Frank met. I got in the industry in 2015, and I met Jim and Frank. I was bidding a grocery store, I think at the time. But here comes this guy. I don't know who he is. Jim Miller brings him in to meet with him, and we're sitting down, and he gets right into a story, and it's the story that I want you to share. I'll set the tone for you to share a little more about it. You were talking about seeing your van on TV, and it was in the middle of a bank robbery. So, all right, that's all right. So this is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about first, guys. Is personal stuff, personal stories. We all talk about business accomplishments. I want to get a little bit more personal and the human side of running and building businesses. So let's talk about your company van, bank robbery, but we're there talking about Spartan Chemical.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Ricky's married to a beautiful woman. So this beautiful woman comes in with this guy still dressed in black. They pull up with a Land Cruiser or British Leland, one of these vehicles, and he's on his hands and knees scraping wax off the thing, and he's running around. In the meantime, he's setting something up. Goes, man, this guy's either on crack or there's something going on here. And he's I've never seen anybody so energetic in my life. And every time I see him, I still see that energy. Now he's moved up to another level. But, when I get into the cleaning business, my friend owned a company. His father owned a company for 50 years. And my father, I come from an Italian family. My father had a 6th grade education. I was the only one who went to college. And when my buddy, he said, listen, I want you to come in the cleaning business with me. I go, are you nuts? My father will kill me. I went to college. Are you crazy? No, you got to come. I said, all right. So we got the company to be about $5 million, about 550 employees. In fact, but the problem is, and I'm going to stress that later this afternoon, is that you're going to get to a point where you hit a wall. Do I move on? Do I sell? Do I merge with somebody? And I realized that after a long day of stripping and waxing floors, and even being part owner of this company, when people don't show up, you're the cleaner. I own this company. Take the dirt off the floor. I own the company. Get the crap out of the toilet. And so you're a worker. I'm sitting in bed. I'm finally getting in bed. I lay back. I turn on the news. I go, holy, that's my van. And it goes, bulletin, local bank being robbed. That's my van. I see these guys get in his van, and then they get the picture guy taking off. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, we get a call. This your van? Yeah. They used my van to rob a bank. And now you guys can appreciate this other story, workman's comp story. I sent 3 guys out to do a carpet job. They flipped the van. I go to see the job. There's 10 guys on the ground. All want workman's comp. They're like, you don't work for me. I mean, those are the stories you people face that every day. Every day. So meeting Ricky, it really brought back memories because this kid had a lot of guts, a lot of gumps, a lot of ambition, and he's doing well today. But he got on his hands and knees, scraping that. I mean, he's dressed up. I mean, the guy was like GQ. He wasn't. And his wife again was beautiful, all prim and proper, and they're screaming. And you didn't even get the supermarket after that.
Thank God. They closed like 9 months later.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, that's how I first met him, and those are one of the stories that I can share with you, and there's many, many more. So, I mean, I'm glad now I'm retired now, but I'm on this side of it because I didn't have to worry about workman's camp and who didn't show up, and now you don't know who you hire. Is it things have changed. I don't know. I'm glad I'm on this end now.
You guys keep it. All right. That's a great way to start the conversation. We're in 2024.
Yeah, we are.
All right, so we're going to keep moving things along. Because, Frank, I'm going to come back to another one with you. But Lee, let's kick it off to you now next. Lee is, again, I'm going to say a little bit of some personal stuff with people too, but Lee's one of the first people I met. So I think this was 2018, Lee, maybe 17, 18. Went to my first BSCI, first ISSA, right? I did both at the same time for my, as a first timer, which is overwhelming to say the least. And, you know, I'm going through the expo floor, learning a lot at that time, smaller business. I get to the BSCI, I really don't know what this is. The acronym threw me off. I'm like, what does it stand for? I'm in the room and I don't know anybody, right? And I just see this Jason, you know, coming across the room, and he introduces himself to me first. So granted, you know, some context, throughout that day, I had tried my best to network and talk to people. And I tell you this all the time, Jason, too, is at first I felt like I was getting sized up, right? Everybody's always like, hey, how big are you? Hey, how big are you? What size of revenue are you? What size? I'm like $1 million company, like not that big. And I always remembered, but he didn't. So like he came up to me, asked me some questions, kind of, you know, the joke of, you know, hey, put your arm around, follow me, I'll introduce you to people. And that's what Jason did, is he introduced me to what BSCI was, why you should be in this room. Doesn't matter what size you are. So since that day, we hit it off, man, right? And I appreciate you for that. And I just wanted to give you a shout out of, this is a guy who's making his wave through the industry, especially with BSCI. A lot of accolades that are happening there. You know, I'll let you speak to that later, Jason, but he's been sticking to it. Something that he always told me was, you know, Rick, make a statement, but also back it up, do the work, and just be consistent and always show up, right? So I take that to heart, and I'm here today doing the things that he told me to do. But Lee, let's start with, you know, you're on this momentum of growing your business, but as I did with Frank, is take me back to the early years. Like, 'cause I know some of the background for you, but like share some context on, again, this is not all sunshines and rainbows of where we've gotten to, but let's talk about the journey and how we got here. What's the early years when Lee first got introduced to the cleaning industry?
Well, Ricky, again, thanks for having me on here. So early years for me, and I'll kind of make this as fast as possible. My early years for me, coming out of high school, I came out of high school, was incarcerated, and I remember my first really true job I had, worked at Burger King. And when I got the job, I was sitting there thinking like, okay, what's next? What do I do? And a few years into the job, went from being as an employee to running actually a couple of stores. One day I watched the person clean windows that I had probably just signed his invoice and gave him a free meal every week. And then one day I wasn't busy. And I went, whoa. And then literally the questions I asked him was, hey, how many accounts do you have? I remember saying a couple hundred. And I looked at the invoice for the first time. I always sign the invoice. This is the funniest thing we think about what we do. I always sign the invoice. I never look at the number. Sign the invoice every week. So this time now I saw it, and I went back to the adding machine. It was $68.25. And all I did was I times it by 50. And I went, man, I'm doing the wrong thing. And literally 2 days later, I had 2 window clients. And that's how I started. And for me, it was all about, from my background, I had to figure out, if I went to college and did a lot of things, I was going to try to play a little sports as well. But even if that, I always had this felony on my record that I would always have to answer, that no matter if I had a degree or not. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I knew I was going to work for myself. I knew I had that hustle entrepreneur spirit. And I just knew I had to go out and prove it. And the cleaning industry gave me that. And kind of fast forward, and I remember Mr. Leroy Dock came. I was going to the church his brother was attending, and I remember he was tracking me down. I remember Leroy wanted to meet with me multiple times, and I kept telling this guy, like, man, what do we want to talk about? And then one day he took me to a Golden Corral, and he put a services magazine in front of me, and he asked me some questions about workloading and productivity, and my inner man was saying, workloading? What the hell are you talking about? Outer man? Oh, we good. I know what I'm doing. He asked me about percent of profit. Inner man, percent of profit? What is he talking about? Outer man? Oh, we good on percent of profit. Ended up going to a BSC. He told me to go down. It was in Nashville. And I remember that just changed the trajectory. I remember walking in and going, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And that kind of just opened up the game for me to just grow. And it was getting around folks like Tom, the Franks of the world, and man, it was just a different mindset. And then on there, as we all know, we just pick up friends along the way, man. I got a great friend, man. This guy right here, Q Millsaps.
My man, Q.
My man. We sat together 2005, bidding and estimating training first time. And he hasn't left me yet. I don't know. He keeps following me. I'm trying to get rid of him. But anyway, yeah. So that was a journey. It's been a journey. But again, one thing I've always learned is when you get involved and do what you got to do, man, it's going to pay you back. And the biggest thing was always going out and helping other people. The same way Leroy Doc came to me and said, hey, that was his biggest word to me was do me a favor. Whatever you do, you continue to pay it forward. And that's always been me. It's like, hey, if I can help out, let me show you. I'll show you how to do it. You got to do the work. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. And just to set the relevancy tone too, because I was talking to Luis earlier today, and something that he told me is something that I wanted to do for everybody here too, is why this is so relevant for everybody is we have different stages of sizes of companies. We have Frank, who went from the BSC side to now the supplier side to now being a consultant, a wealth of knowledge, right? Rob, we're going to get into he's on the procurement side, right? Didn't come from the BSC side, learning the janitorial side. Tom, which is my question comes to you next, but went from cleaning to building a company, selling a company, to now helping the larger BSC go and acquire other companies. And Jason, small to medium-sized business, growing, future president-elect of BSCI. So different elements that, as you guys think of maybe some questions later on, right, is like we have different elements here. You know, and I'll talk a little bit about myself too, but Tom, let's kick it to you. I kind of alluded to, you went from cleaning yourself to building a company that got to the point where you sold it. And now you work at, you know, if people don't know, Marzin is a very large brand. You should know who they are. And you're helping them with M&A. But at what point, like, because we were talking last night, like it's not always about selling your company or buying a company. But when did you know that was something that you were interested as you grew your company and got into this, to the M&A? Because when you were cleaning, you weren't thinking M&A. Right?
Didn't even know what M&A meant.
Right, Tony acronyms.
Yeah, right. Just a little context. I think, starting out in the industry, it's, I think for me, I didn't grow up with a whole lot, like a lot of you guys. And, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I was kind of getting into trouble and stuff like that, just typical stupid stuff. And, but when I started cleaning, it just, and getting around people, one of the things that I realized, and I'll get to your, but I realized that all these people that I was working beside, and I bet you this will resonate with a lot of you guys too, we were all there by default. I don't think anybody in this room probably said, oh gosh, I got to make sure I ace my SATs so that I can be in the janitorial industry, right? It was completely, for a lot of us, you just end up, because that's the option you've got. Yeah. And so I realized that the people that I was working with and working beside, that was really the option that they had. And I was one of the lucky ones because I came from a place where at least, there was, some stability and some love and all of that kind of stuff. And I was working beside a lot of people who, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar, employees that were, the lady was working the day shift so that her sister could watch the kids on first shift, and then she watched her sisters on the second shift, and they're taking care of an aging parent, and the brother-in-law's in jail, and I realized that the way to be successful, I think, in this people industry, at least in that context, was to make the job site the happiest place in their life. And I thought, well, how do you do that? And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. The bar is set so low because where they're coming from isn't really great. So you don't have to be that great. You just have to make it a happy place. So that's what really connected to me. And so you segue into
as a cleaner, there was only so much that I felt like I could do. Like I was, even not owning a company, I just felt like I could build that place, but I could do so much more if I had complete control of the situation. And so that's when my head went to look, I've got to own and control my own destiny and have complete control over creating this environment where people wanted to be. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a good point. I like that. Yeah. So Rob, over almost 30 years of experience in procurement, and I say procurement, for those that don't know what procurement is, at some point as you're growing your business and bidding on larger opportunities, the larger companies and clients have procurement departments, right? I didn't know early on. I don't know if you guys knew what procurement was. That was another odd word for me. I was like, what is this? But it's very important. And why I like that we have you on, Rob, is you bring a different element on. You're on the side working with vendors. You're working with fellow cleaning contractors to see if they can bid on the accounts that you have. But you're new to the janitorial space. So share with us a little bit on the experience that you had coming from retail and the merchant side. So now you're in the janitorial services side, diversified maintenance. How has the first 18 months been? I didn't know you only knew this side for 18 months. Last year we met for the first time. So how's that been in the transition of working now with the BSC side?
Well, first off, thanks for Spartan for hosting us and all that Spartan does for day in, day out to make us all better. And thanks, Vicki, for having us. The first 18 months have been interesting. There's a lot that the industry does really, really well, but there's a lot that the industry just hasn't seen. It's kind of it's a tight-knit group. It doesn't seem to look outside the walls as much. And so there's a lot out there that you just find over the years. People say, oh, you have 30 years of experience. I always kind of just say, well, that just makes me old. I've been around for a long time.
Try 45.
God willing, I'll get there. But yeah, I think a lot of smaller groups, you kind of look at it as a purchasing department. Right? When I came out of school, again, I did not plan on being in distribution. I did not plan on being in retail, but there was a plan for me, and I tapped into it and have loved the journey since. But you kind of have a purchasing department, right? So you think you have maybe a purchasing manager, purchasing agent, and you kind of go to them and say, hey, buy me 12 of the clean by peroxy. And so they do that. And then think of that as very tactical, very kind of day in, day out, and that's what we do a lot of. You kind of move towards procurement, it becomes relationship building, it becomes vendor management, and then I'll say that there's a whole big world past that called supply chain. Right? When I graduated from school, there was no such thing as supply chain. There was a logistics manager, there was a warehouse manager, there was a purchasing manager, there was a pricing manager, there was all that kind of stuff. So think about supply chain and kind of how does something get from water in the ocean to a bottle on the shelf, and you're involved with the whole place. So for those of you who kind of look at purchasing as kind of a necessary evil, and they're involved kind of at the last step of operations, I don't want to say you're missing the boat, it's just the boat hasn't left the dock yet. So I would argue that your procurement team should be involved with the sales team on the front end, because a purchasing manager will say how many, a procurement manager will say how much, and a supply chain manager will say why. So why do we need, we went through, we've been blessed with picking up 128 FedEx distribution centers recently. And the question was, we need 12 scrubbers and 3 sweepers, and my question was why? And so we sat down. By the time we were finished, we saved half off our CapEx because we put together processes. And it wasn't just the item, it was how do you get the item to the place. Frank said it great. We were at dinner. He was down in Birmingham the other night, and he just said it's as simple as can be. You can't start a job without a mop. So if you think purchasing's not important, try and start a job without a mop.
Yeah.
So That's really it.
Now it's
And
even
then-
harder to get people, so if you got a mop, you may have a person.
And you know, it's one of those that you kind of say, it becomes this. If you let it, it just becomes this thing called purchasing, right? And you're looking at a sheet, you're looking at a price sheet, you're looking at something. But in the end, the way that I look at it, and we've been blessed, we have 10,000 employees, we have 14,000 locations. But in the end, people buy from people,
Yeah. So
and that's it.
I'm gonna follow up on that. Actually, now you made me think of this because a lot of the attendees are BSCs, right? Small, medium, large. That's part of the procurement process too, because you guys do a lot of subcontracting. What is it that you could share that you look for in a subcontractor, or in, I hate to say the word subcontracting, right? But like, these are potential candidates that could work with Diversified. Share a little bit of something that you guys look for, because there's one thing about procurement for product. We are products as well, right? We're a product of service. Right. So like, what could you share about that?
Yeah, I think one thing that works best is when your cultures align. You know, when we put people first. And when we're in the people business, yes, we clean floors, yes, we clean windows, but we take people and we have opportunities for people that in some cases don't have opportunities, but in other cases really want to keep that humility that they have. We have a lady who cleans a building for us that's currently an executive vice president with a pretty good sized company. And she's been cleaning for us for 30 years. And when she started, she was a cleaner, and she was a cleaner at that company that she's now executive vice president of. And she said, I want to keep cleaning because I never want to forget where I started. And so we look for people, integrity, great work ethic, but really put their people first. You know, it's not, if you put your people first, if you develop your people, profits will come.
Yeah.
We kind of look at a lot of things, like I talk about lag indicators and lead indicators, and like you can't affect profit.
Yeah.
You can't plan profit. You can plan payroll, you can plan CapEx, and when you add all those things and subtract all those things, you end up with profit. So if you start with your people who create all the other things, the profit will come.
Yeah.
But take care of your people, train your people. We use a lot of, I always say, you know, people say, why do you spend money on training? I said, well, because what if you train them and they leave? And I always say, what if I don't and they stay?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yes. Amen. Amen. All right. So next we're going to get into is so something we did at our, so we also host events, right? We've had a couple of Cleaning Cocktails live events. It's something I know, Jason, you were a part of one the first time we did this, but we had a panel called Vulnerability. You know, right away people are like, what the hell do you have a vulnerability panel at a cleaning conference? Well, it's because it's, again, we always on social media, especially with what we have going on, right? Like everybody's always sharing the wins. It's always success stories. Not that that's not great to embrace success, but I also like to talk about the valleys, right? So the peaks and valleys of life, of running a business, being a senior leader in a company. I'll set the tone for a valley. A valley, obviously, you guys could imagine, is a low point in your either personal or your business career. But I feel like we have to embrace those low points to appreciate what a peak really stands for. And a valley for me that many people don't see, because I'm not posting this on social media, is when our first 4 years, and I bet you don't even know this, right? But our first 4 years in business, 2 months in, me and my wife and my cousin Tony and his wife, we had a plan. Right? Our plan was, here's the map of Chicago. Tony, Becky, you clean this side. Me, Marley, we'll clean this side. Our accounts are here. It was a game, right? It's all logistics at that point. We had like 30 accounts. We're like, we got this. Well, 2 months in, I got a DUI. So I lost my license for 4 years. I had to take a breath. My fourth year, I had to do a breathalyzer in our first company van. But so take you back to the 2 months in, we got a game plan. Our game plan is to attack 30-something accounts with 2 vehicles, boom, boom, boom. We got this. Well, not so much. Now I'm driving passenger side with my wife that has to drive for 4 years. So that's a low point that I could have stopped. I could have gave up. I could have been, why am I even trying to do this thing? Cleaning. Why am I in the cleaning industry? What I used that moment, and what we did was back then we didn't have podcasts per se. We were listening like I don't want to say cassette tapes, the CDs. We were listening to stories, but we took business classes together, me and my wife, in the vehicle as we went to Accounts and Clean to learn. Might as well learn something being in the car so damn long, 7 days a week. But again, it's a value for me, you guys, because like that was 4 years that I still got to $1 million plus in revenue from zero. I still got to where I needed to get to because I had a mission, and I didn't want to let that deter. But a funny point to that is, I'm in a walkthrough. I have the van. Finally, this is my 4th year. I'm like spreading my wings. I'm able to drive. Got the breathalyzer in there. But another thing, side note, they don't tell you that you have to blow in this breathalyzer every 15 minutes as you're driving. Tell me does that sound safe? As you're driving, you have to blow in the breathalyzer. So my wife helped me out. She, talk about processes and strategy. We figured out a process in the van how to get this going. But the van stalled at my walkthrough in front of the account. So the van, big ass Rosalato, doesn't start because of the breathalyzer. So the owner's out like, hey, Rick, it's been 3 hours. Like, are you guys gonna leave? Or like, yeah, I'm on it. I'm not trying to tell him that I have this going on, but my car is literally double parked in front of the place. So just a funny point to that. But that was a valley for me, guys. I don't know if I want to start with Frank. Think of a valley that you had to deal with, either if it's personal or through business, that, again, these are things that we can let us set us back, or we can let them push us forward.
I turn this on.
Just use my, you got it.
That's a good question. In the business, there's a lot of high and lows. And I owned a piece of the cleaning business. My buddy's family owned it. But, it's funny because, you started out the same way and I thought of you. Okay, I got 50 cousins. I got a lot of cousins. So how big can I get? I'll hire all my cousins. Well, then after you hire 50 people and all your cousins, first of all, they leave you and they want to work no more. Now what are you doing? You're still growing a company. I got to a point, especially now with the vans and all the issues that we were having, workman's comp. In 1987, the Right to Know law came out. That was probably a law before you guys were born. That means I couldn't put anybody in an unventilated restroom anymore with muriatic acid and said, clean the grout. And they go, oh, my eyes are burning. Shut up, just clean the grout. I got 10 other people that'll do it. And then, their fingers would fall off and all that stuff, and you'd burn their skin. They go, look at my skin's burning. I said, you got a rash. It ain't nothing. I mean, that was before. Now, Right to Know law says, I had to tell these people that they're going to kill them. I can't do that. And then you have insurance for that, right? And verified it. It went from $25,000 a year to $125,000 a year. We started canceling everything. So we're sitting around, we're going, what are we going to do? We're a $5 million company. And at that time, we used to do a lot of Catholic schools and all that. Well, Catholic schools are starting to shut down. And most of the big companies now were starting to come in. We were in a secondary market and bidding stuff at 4 cents a square foot with paper and plastic. And we're used to making all that. We're going, what do we do? What do we do? So we said, I think it's time to market our company. We got to take it to the next level. We don't have the money to do it. We don't have the expertise. We don't have the computers at the time. And I used to count tiles and wear a lucky tie for a bid. What's your price? What's the tie say? And it's got an end with an 8. It's got an end with an 8. So I used to count tiles. Beep, 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 beep. And then as things got on, people were bringing in these electronic things and measuring. They go, what do you think, Frank? How many tiles you got? Like foot tile? Yeah, okay, 5 cents a square foot. But no, it's going to be 5.8 cents a square foot, and I got my lucky tie. That's how we bid stuff. Now I have all these sophisticated stuff, and it still comes out to the same price. They just get it differently. But that was one of the low points. I said, what do I do? I can't rely on my family anymore. I mean, my kid was going to college. I said, listen, we got a building in Buffalo. After class, you better schluck around and do bathrooms because we don't have anybody. So that was the low point. And then when we partnered with the right people, it's funny, we marketed our business on Wall Street, and Mellon Bank marketed it. Now, here's a $5 million company in Utica, New York, we're saying, it went real well. And at that time, fortunately, we hooked up with a company, ISS at the time. We had the same vision we did, and they were getting their brains blown in because they had 40,000 employees with about a 300% turnover rate. Think what their liability insurance was going to be. And at that time, people didn't know it, but ABM lost their insurance from CNA and had no insurance. They self-insured up to $1 million. This was in the late 80s. So those are real problems then. But one of the highlights is that because where we were located in 1980, the Olympics were in Lake Placid. And we said, let's bid it. We had an office in Plattsburgh, and if you've ever been upstate New York, there's more wild animals than people. And now we've got this Olympics, we're gonna bid it. We got it. What the hell are we gonna do? We had 80 people every day. He had to pass all these tests and all that stuff, and and everybody just wanted to see. We're bringing a worker down at the Olympics. We got to clean the floor. And then we had to bus them every day. But that was a high point. We were very proud of that. And at that time, think about 1980, we rented a house in Lake Placid to put our management team. It was $30,000 a month. These people died and went to heaven when that Olympics went there.
Yeah.
And then we had to deal with these crazy people like ABC. Remember Roone Arledge from ABC? He was such a jerk. He had to have his desk from New York City airlifted on top of the mountain so he could be. These are the things that we dealt with. Plus, the Olympics never paid anybody. We were the only ones that told them, you want us to clean $30,000 up front every week. We're the only ones that got paid. But we were so proud of that. We logistically wise, we did it. We never refused any work. If I didn't know how to clean that, I'd find somebody who knew and could teach me. And that was a bright spot. And I'm still proud of that today, that we survived that. And I don't know if I could do it now at 74 years old, but it was a lot of fun then.
Stories. We got stories. Lee, what about you? What's a Valley, again, personal, business?
Valley for me was, from 2008 until 2015, I had a partner. So I took on a partner. We had two companies that we merged together. And I remember at that point where I was like, man, I was trying to unravel. And I just knew we had two different business visions as things got deeper. And man, I remember I was thinking like, well, what would I do? And it's like anything else. When you bring something together, your livelihood and your lifestyle that you created for your family, you're thinking in your mind all these thoughts of like, man, okay, if I do this, what happens? If this happens, what goes this way? And I'm being honest, I probably let that weigh on me for many years. And I always say it's always good to have great advisors around. And sometimes I think some of the advisors might get sick of you because every once in a while when you're talking to them, you're telling them something, they're looking at you going like, okay, well, why don't you just get out of it?
Yeah,
And it
so
sounds so easy, like just get out of it. And I'm glad at the time I made the choice I made. It was a hard choice, but it was a choice to say, hey, you know what, we just got to start all over again. And scary moment, but I always knew. I said, you know what, I got the drive to make it work. No one, if you were around me, you wouldn't even know that probably was bothering me at any time. And the good thing is that it turned around, and at the end of the day, me and my previous partner, I mean, we're friends to this day, which is great. It wasn't that way early on, but it was a turning moment for me personally, and I'm just grateful that I didn't. Again, going back to what do? You can't fall apart, but you got to figure it out, and we did.
And Lee, think about that. Like, you going back, like if you guys heard when Jared made the introduction, it's Lee Building Maintenance started 2015.
Right.
So you're taking us back to 2008 when it really, you got into the space and started. In that moment, because like I know I get the advice and people are always saying stuff like it's not, you weren't thinking about that in the moment. No. That you are going to be where you are today. Because we're so, as humans, we're like, it's the end of the world. Like this is the worst year of my life. I'm dealing with this. It's like, you're going to get past it. Like it's, there's years to come. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Tom, let's talk about you with, I'll have a follow-up question for you too, but share a valley.
Wow, there's a lot to choose from. The day that I met Frank, notwithstanding, as a valley. But probably just two. I'll be quick too. Just two, and they both were starting with a place of arrogance and ego and comfort. And I don't believe that any valley is without a good lesson. So you try to learn from that, and and just realized that you can't have peaks without valleys. So valleys are just part of the deal. But first one was after having the company for a while and thinking that I was Mr. Business Person and had it all figured out, and so on and so forth, and didn't need to pay attention to things as much because I was this mogul, and then realized that I had not kept one bit of attention on my accounts receivable, and my receivables were $2 million behind. I was behind at this point because I didn't have any cash. Obviously, payroll was coming up, and interestingly enough, you find out that you violate some bank covenants in the process. So very, very humbling experience to sit across the table from a bunch of bankers. Love you when you have money.
Come on, say it again.
Bankers love you when you have money, but they're not real friendly when you don't have money. So here I am sitting across the table from these guys, probably about the same age as I have. They probably haven't lifted a finger in their life, and I've busted my tail to get to this point. And they're basically, taking me to school on how business should go and how it should run. That was one valley, and they probably weren't all wrong in terms of what they were teaching me. I just didn't. Everybody likes to learn. Nobody likes to be taught, right?
Tom, do you feel like I have those moments many times with bankers, but I feel like we turn into storytellers, and but you have to believe me. We are going through that. We're going to build for this. We're going to do that. They don't care.
No. What's the balance sheet say? What's the cash flow statement say? And then the second one, again, coming from a place of arrogance, wasn't paying attention to a big job that I had going on. We were doing the ceiling of a big manufacturing floor over a weekend, holiday weekend. And I was going to take off the next day and go enjoy myself, and I get a call, and it's like the guy on the job site's like, "We got a problem." Anyway, to make the long story short, they ended up having to bus people to the hospital because of the fumes from the site. They had to shut the line down at $18,000 a minute.
Oh my God!
And this is an auto manufacturing plant, and And my guys called me. I was like, "No, you take care of it. I'm gonna, I got, And he's like, "No." He's like, "I'm not paid enough to take care of this. And you need to get out of here. This is serious." I show up out there. Some guy comes up to me I'd never met before. He says, "Mr. Cruzy?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm David Tarpey. Follow me." And he just turns around and walks. He takes me to a janitor closet. He sits on the edge of the slop sink. He says, "Sit down." I sat down on a wax bucket, and he said, "We can handle this one of two ways. Either you got a problem or we got a problem." He says, "We can figure this out together." The low point about we ended up figuring it out, and we eventually turned that into $1 million more business. And that's not an exaggeration, and still have that business to this day. But the low point was when he was walking me to the janitor closet. The people on the line were throwing pennies and nickels at me, and I said, What are they doing? He says, "That's their way of telling me that I'm throwing money away on you." Damn. And I was like, okay, maybe I should pay more attention to my business. Wow. So, anyway, yeah. So I could go on with more, but it's a very, very life is humbling, right?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is because I get goosebumps when humbling situations happen, man. Because that is, again, like you said, it comes from maybe without knowing a point of arrogance, right? Because you're just like, I'm on it. We're good. It's a wake up.
Yeah, it's a total wake up. Yeah.
So I'm going to follow this up before we get to you, Rob, and then you guys can add to this too as well. But I wanted to talk about again, social media and the younger generation that's coming up, right? Like Jared alluded to, there's some young generation owners here or people that are in leadership roles. With social media being so impactful, again, you see all the wins that people have, or the get rich schemes, or like that life is all this, right? What would you guys share with? What should we be paying attention to as a second, third generation owner, or again a younger person in a role that we may want to grow to be a senior leader or a C level? What are the things we should be paying attention to versus trying to compare ourselves and compare our companies or compare who we are to these other individuals or people on social media?
You want to try that first?
I'll do my best. I'm not a big social media person. I always say that, but the one thing I'm learning to do is I need to embrace it because it is necessary. But I think the biggest thing I tell anybody, and I say this to my kids. I got 3 daughters, and man, it's for them, they've had a cell phone in their hand. My oldest is 28. She's had a cell phone in her hand almost more than half her life. My other one's got, they've had this mobile device. So, but I've always told them about impact. I was like, man, all these people getting on, and man, I take a selfie here. I said I was over here. I was over there. I was over there. And you're like, okay, what does all that mean? I said, get to the point where if you can, make your post or whatever you do be meaningful and a relevancy. So that when people actually see it, it's not just they just swipe through and past you, that they know, hey, man, when Tom or Rob or Mark says, Frank said something, I should listen. And I think, I always go, stay humble. Who wants to get on there? Most of us, if anything, for me, I always say I've always had a problem with I took on a mindset coach this year to just understand myself more when it comes to being able to have things. When you haven't had things, or you haven't had, I joined the country club 10 years ago. That was never in my being.
Yeah.
There wasn't a manuscript that said Jason Lee would ever be at a country club at all. But you got to understand that if that's where God's allowed you to be, own it,
Embrace it.
but don't flaunt it.
Yeah.
And I think from a social media perspective, we got to understand it's okay to have certain things, but within our businesses, some people want to judge you. I've learned it 2 ways. Somebody told me I bought too expensive a car. Literally, I got taken with 3 gentlemen out to lunch with my Rotary Club who told me, why did I buy this expensive car and put janitor on my plate? Internally, I got rid of the car. Mm-hmm. The dumbest thing my coach told me was, why'd you do that? Do you owe those guys anything? No. But when you grow and mature and you understand about those things, there's a way to do them. So for me, I'm always I'm watching things. Or some people, if they don't know you in the room, most people, if I come in, they see me, or they see something, they think I played sports and I did something, I must make my money playing sports.
Yeah.
But then when they find
Perception.
out something different. So I'm saying all to say, social media, it's an interesting place. I'm sitting down with some folks now who are helping me to put together something of how we handle social media within the company, because that's one way. How you may handle it personal, because even outside of cleaning, all of us here, we do different things.
Correct.
I sit on multiple boards. I bet you do. There's other things outside of cleaning we do in our communities. I guarantee everybody does here. But again, it's how people may view in that snippet that they know you from to take it in. So I'll shut up there.
No.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about social media either. I mean, not that it's not a good thing, or not that it's not an important tool and that kind of stuff. Business evolves and it changes. It's just that particular part kind of has left me behind a little bit. I tried it for a while, and then it was like, what I didn't like about social media was I didn't like who I was on social media. It was like I was trying so hard to put out some sort of facade of who I wanted people to see, who I was, or who I wanted them to think I was, and I felt like that was a bit of an insult to who I really was. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. And so I kind of shut that down. But it's not that LinkedIn and all of that stuff isn't important. I recognize that. It's just, I think of it more as a tool. But as it relates to the second, third generation, just out as a show of hands, how many second generation people do we have here in the room? Anybody taking on second generation? Okay. And how about people that are just making a go of it for the first time? Okay, a few more people. So the second, third generation folks, what I would say is there's a lot of good things that the first generation did, and you got to recognize which things those are and pull those forward and understanding what stuff to leave in the past. I went through it myself, and you have to do that in such a way that there's no guilt involved or anything like that. It's just, hey, look, some stuff it's the way they did it isn't the right way to do it. I've got my own way of doing it. No, I'm going to leave that stuff behind. And don't feel bad about that, but just make sure that you recognize the stuff that they did that's really, really good and still applies, and don't let go of that because there's so many lessons to be learned there. For the first generation folks, that's a little bit close to my heart because one of my kids just started a janitorial company in Salt Lake City. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah, your mother and I paid for a 4-year finance degree, and you started a janitorial business from scratch. And it is tough to sit by and watch this. I mean, he is out there getting his head kicked in every day. Dad, how come they don't call me back? Dad, how come they said I had the business and then all of a sudden they go quiet on me? You know, that all of that stuff, and it's really hard to watch as a parent. But I'm not going to get involved. But my advice to him, and it's probably good advice to all of us, really, is, you know, usually the people that win are the ones that stick it out the longest.
Yeah.
That's you know, just be the one that's willing to go in and get your shins kicked every day, because most people aren't going to be able to stick it out. And I would say that's probably the best advice I can get, is just be the last one standing.
No, Tom, that's great, man. It actually leads into, Rob, back to the peak and valley piece, because that's a peak, in my opinion. Seeing your son, because I forgot to touch on this. This is actually pretty cool for you guys to hear that, right? He's your son. You are in the cleaning industry. He could easily have just said, I'm going to go work for Dad, or Dad, help me launch a company. Dad, help me do, like, the way you helped is just by actually not helping. Stand aside, let you get your teeth kicked in. It's got to be tough, but again, I feel like that's a peak, though, to see your son starting something.
Well, let him get a little success.
Let him get some success. Let's make sure he wins. Rob, peaks or valleys for you as you, again, personal business.
Yeah, so I may tie all those questions together in kind of one. So I'm going to take a little bit different take. The peak for me was when I truly got to the point where who I was not what I did. And I separated my identity from my occupation. So my occupation is part of who I am, but it does not describe completely who I am. Me personally, faith is very important to me. So, growing up, Kruzy said it best, I came out of school, I was going to solve all the problems of the world. I was going to do it all myself. I was going to go on and on and on, and I was going to be a big deal. And, there were some valleys and some pitfalls along the way. And I got to the point where I realized it wasn't about me. And like I said, faith is important to me. So, the way that I saw myself was not the way that Christ saw me. So that was a big piece, because what I found was when I was doing it all myself, all my negotiations, and I'll kind of go back to supply chain, all my negotiations were if I came out better in the end. Right? So I made decisions based on if I would win. So, and I think I throw that out to everybody, because if you're negotiating, it's a process, it's a product, it's a thing. And so when you go in, are you going in for you to win? Are you going in for the company to win? Are you going in for there to be wins together? And you can get to the point where now in negotiation, I really negotiate starting with what does the other team want? So if I can negotiate on the other team's side, they're automatically going to nod, because nobody's going in. I mean, Doug's great, but he's not coming to Birmingham saying, I just can't wait to give Diversified something.
That's true.
I mean, and every tenant's not going, you know what, I'd love to give half off that scrubber. No. So they have a plan. And so if you can tap in and you can grow that together, your negotiations become completely different. So once I was able to separate myself, and when I heard no, it wasn't no to Rob, it was just no to what we were doing. So I say that because the valley kind of came along behind that. So I'd worked really hard to become who I was, not what I did. And then in 2013, I lost my brother unexpectedly. He died of a heart attack. And that was horrible. Obviously, we were very close. And then came back right behind that in January of 17, or January of 18, lost my mother. In July of 19, lost my father. So my entire nuclear family had been ripped away. And I have a great wife, 2 great kids, but my nuclear family had been ripped away from me. At the same time, I was with a company, we had built it from 18 million to 140 million, and we had hired a couple new people, and they came in and convinced the owner that the entire executive team needed to go. So in January of 2020, the entire executive team went away. And I was part of that team that went away. So a couple of you in your mind are kind of going, January 2020. Well, there was this little thing that happened like the first week of March in 2020 that we will remain nameless.
Nameless.
But in this industry, we all made a lot of money from that nameless thing. But the ability, when that went away, so that was a valley, but it really was a peak too, because when I walked out that door, I was no different than the day that morning when I walked in and didn't know that was going to happen. God provided a path forward that has been great, landed me here today. I don't think I'm here by accident, it's on purpose. But probably the biggest peak on that was my daughter's 24, graduated from the University of Alabama. I don't know if Jared's in here, but we got a couple more national championships than that other team. And for Jessica, my son is now a junior at Auburn University, so that's fun at the house for the Alabama and Auburn. But a couple months ago, my daughter's now an accountant. She came up to me and she said, I've been meaning to tell you this, and I'll never forget how you handled that time when it was all ripped out from underneath you. And so to see your next generation understand the importance of people, and on that second generation, like Cruzy said, I think I kind of liken it to basketball, right? There's a move in basketball called the pivot, right? I mean, so you have one leg that's on the ground, one leg that's moving, and that one leg that's on the ground is all those things that those past generations have built into your business. Mm-hmm. All that culture, all those hard nights, all those things that have really gone a long way to build that business. And then you're there to be the pivot, and you need to know when to move. Mm. Don't give up any of the things that you're standing on, but be ready to move that next foot. So.
Well done.
Good stuff. Yeah, that was powerful. That was good. The pivot. You guys got that. I'm going to trademark that. Cool. Yeah. Let's go. Oh, man. No, thank you for sharing that, Rob. That is the point of this, too, as you guys hear, everybody's got different peaks, different definitions of valley, or what a valley is or what a peak is. But I think every single person did say a common theme is that people, the human side, the people component. Yeah. That's the business that we're in this industry. So I love that without even knowing, every single one of you touched on that as part of your peak. So keeping to the other part of what this panel is supposed to be about, that, Jared, I forgot, completely bypassed that you could call this the state of the union or the state of the cleaning space. I'm going to bring that back into this panel now, and let's talk about the industry. Let's talk about the state of the industry right now. And one common topic I've been hearing about, you guys, and something I'm going to be moderating a panel at the ISSA show about is AI, right? It's been brought up a lot. Everybody's talking about it. Is it going to work? Is it going to stay? I'm a big believer if it's here, we have to embrace it. Don't have to have everybody answer the question, but like anybody here, how is your company or your teams thinking about AI as far as it relates to in the cleaning industry?
Fortunately, I don't have a cleaning company anymore, but I was part of the test back in the mid-90s on robotics. And everybody thought they had a robotic auto scrubber and they had a robotic this and that. And now we even got timers and soap machines that tell you when to fill them and towel dispensers and all that. But this is still a basic business. People have to clean. They have to clean. And it was funny when we put robotics in a Burlington factory in, I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina. It was and we thought it was the greatest thing in the world. The union was all upset. That was a union plant. And they thought they were going to take jobs away. And we didn't want to do that. We just wanted to make cleaning better, meaning that if I can take time from the daily tasks that a robot can do, I got more time to do detail work. I can do the high dusting. I can do clean the ashtrays better when they had ashtrays. I can dust the top of the picture, which hadn't been dusted in 2 years. You can do more detail stuff. But people feared that. And when we put those robots in there, they would just sit there and watch it. Wow, look at that. You got to do what you got to do here. Look at that thing over there. So, I mean, that was back in the 90s. I don't know how I'd handle it today, but again, this is still a basic business. During the green revolution, remember green 10 years ago, you know? I'm just from the school that if it didn't burn my nose or bleed my nose or burn my skin, shit don't work, okay? Didn't work. Now I got this clear stuff that smells effervescent, and if I can drink it, I'm fine. I'll get the runs for a couple of days, but I'll be okay, you know, that type of thing. But it's not going to clean. I wanted the strongest stuff in the world. I'm going to put it on the wall. I'm going to take the paint off. That's great. That's what works. And we're still from that analysis. So things have changed, but it's still a cleaning business. I would have people go, oh, my customer wants me to clean my building green. How do I clean green? I go, I don't know, I guess you do the mirror this way, and if you want to clean green, you do it this way. You don't do anything different. Just do basic cleaning. The problem was, and with all this stuff now, they beat us down so low that they won't let us do our job. And I'm going to talk about that this afternoon. You people are in one of the best businesses you ever could be in. You're at a point now that you really mean something. Now, you're not used car. I used to hate to be called used car salesman. I've been doing this for 45 years. You're just like everybody else. I'll get somebody else to do it 2 cents cheaper. Well, you can't compromise cleaning. Yeah. So is AI going to do that? I don't think you're going to lose jobs over it. Maybe a little bit more productivity. I just think it's more fluff. I really do. Because you still need people to clean. I don't care what it is. You just need people to communicate. Yeah. That's what you need. So that's my step on it. Go ahead.
So I get to follow that.
You got to follow that up.
So we have we're blessed with a lot of great clients, and we're hearing a lot about it. I definitely think there's a place for it as far as AI, as far as autonomous product. And I would say that right now we're in a space where you can and should test it, right? Because right now the client is okay if it's not perfect, right? So if it works, but it doesn't work perfectly, it's okay because we're still in this test mode. 5 or 6 years down the road, the ROI is going to be better. Pricing's going to really get closer to where the non-autonomous units are, the manual units, and so you're going to have less of an opportunity to make a mistake 5 years down the road. So I would find a place to test it. I think there are different places. And when we think of AI, I think we all think about robots, right? And we think about autonomous units. There's a whole lot more. We're using it, my team is using it with telemetry on scrubbing equipment. So we have about, come the 1st of September, we'll have about 700 units out there that have telemetry on them, like you may have telemetry in your car. So a regional manager or a vice president in operations can sit down on their desktop and they can see within minutes how long people scrubbed in 600 units versus all the phone calls. Did you scrub last night? Did you scrub last night? Did you scrub last night? So there are things like that. I spent 15 years in department store retail, and we had a saying, and it's always stuck with me, that it's an evolution, not a revolution. Because evolutions move forward, revolutions usually fail. So as we evolve, kind of look at it. Don't get caught up in like I've got to have this huge autonomous thing that's gonna save the world. Pick your places, try it out. Vendors are pretty open to helping, but yeah. So find a way to evolve. Don't really try and just create this huge revolution because you may end up also with a mutiny on your hands from your people.
I'll take it
not up, but back a step, because there's three things that I know, three things that I feel very firmly about on this subject. One, I'm a janitor that just happened to make a decent living having good people around me and good relationships. So what do I know about AI or any other technology? The second thing that I know is that the technology in our industry is going to be here. It's going to keep moving it forward. It's going to continue to improve things for our people. It's going to continue to improve things for our clients. It's going to continue to improve things for us. How? I don't know. I just know, I've just seen it over and over and over. The third thing that I know is that there's a lot smarter people out there that have to worry about this, and one of them is not me. So there are, what I say is our vendor partners within our industry and our company, they do all the heavy lifting on this stuff. You know, the Spartans and so on, they do all the heavy lifting on the technology, and then they bring it to us and they help us understand how it can make it better. I don't have to do that thinking. I don't have to do that. I just have to understand how to apply it. So that's how I look at it. I'm not going to get all worked up about it. Smart people will tell me what to do, and I know it's not going away. So if you try to fight it, you know, that's an issue.
I'm trying to handle this really quickly. I think AI is here. It's here to stay. We've embraced it in a way where we're allowing our teams to use ChatGPT and all the other things. And here's the piece. All of us have data, which I think is going to be super important for us. And when we all think about this, we all try to take, you know, whatever CRMs and all the things that we use to get a answer. The one thing I can tell you I've seen with AI and now what we call even having your own bots, the biggest thing you might think is my data being breached, where does it go? And there's some things you can do internally in your company that you can set a bot off, ask it for something, and I'm telling you, within a few minutes, it'll give you a report out of your brain. In our Vicious group, I'm part of a CEO group. Literally, all of our dash-in financials that go in every single month, he puts it in a bot. It spits out where, if you put a KPI of where everybody should be, where everybody falls, the issues and the things that one company should, number one, be praised for, but then the challenges. And I'm telling you, I've watched this thing over the last 4 or 5 months out of 15 different companies. And I'm telling you, it is spot on 98% of what it spits back out. So I'm saying that in AI is that I think if you embrace it and you understand how to, number one, you got to watch your data, because you just, you know, sometimes we always worry if I put back data out, where does it go? But I think if we use it the way it should be intended to, which is to help us understand our companies, I think the outcomes are going to be so much easier and faster. Sometimes in our minds, like, oh, you know, I was telling Tom as we sat there, I said, man, I look at Spartan, the 50s, now 2010. I was like, man, I wonder what the 2020s are going to be. If they put all this, excuse my language, shit in AI, it'll print out something in 2020 that outlines all this stuff up. And it can happen like that. Now, there's some things we got to go and make sure we work in and go, okay, is that right, wrong, prove it or not. But AI is here to stay. But embrace it, utilize it, and allow your company to be better.
Let me see.
But you guys did a great job on touching all the different aspects. That's why and if you guys heard, it was different aspects of it, right? Because AI, yes, you could think it's autonomous. I know Rob took a page. He stole your fire on the telemetry. You'll get to do it later. I know. But okay, yeah.
I just want to add. I'm not against AI, but I think a lot of people in this room. I think we have to go back and re-engineer what we're doing first.
Yeah.
You can't say how many people. I mean, you go and bid this thing. Okay, I need 2 12-inch vacuum cleaners and this and that. A lot of people are still doing that. I mean, go back. Maybe you got a space vac that'll do 2 passes instead of 6. Okay? Now you're reducing your costs. How many people should be using auto scrubbers in a hallway and you're not using them and you got 4 guys instead, where you could do one guy do 40,000 square feet of unobstructed? I don't think we're there yet for AI because we haven't prepped ourselves yet. We haven't re-engineered what we're doing now. I think it's the great next step, but I still think we're 2 steps behind because we haven't we've been doing this thing the same way for years and years. So we have to go back, look in your janitor closet. You may have 4 all-purpose cleaners, vacuum cleaners with 50-foot cords instead of 75, where they got to go pull that out. Go re-engineer those first before you get into AI.
No.
That's where I'm coming from.
No, Frank, that piggybacks on Tom, what you had said too. It's not that if you're a business owner, if you're an operations manager, whatever role you have within a company, it's not that you have to do and know AI yourself. Your team knows it, but to your point is, technology doesn't solve the problem. Like you have to have a process first and understand why you need
then
to
fit it in.
then fit it in. Because that is, Jason, to your point, that's how we use AI in our business is the mundane task, right? Job descriptions, job postings, supply costs. Like there's things that are so automated and that are so detail oriented that AI does help you with that. Like you said, creating a proposal, like who am I as a company? Check out my website. Give me a soft touch approach to this story that I want to tell this healthcare client because we do this, this, and this. It'll spit out a beautiful, beautiful proposal. But yeah, we got to go back and fine tune it. But if we don't know who we are or how to do it from the beginning, you're right. So again, as all in all though, we're all in agreement. We have to embrace. Maybe go back and re-engineer like you said, but a very hot topic, just so you guys know. It's I did a survey, probably about 360 companies replied. AI was the number one thing. Either they were curious about, didn't like, don't understand. Right. It was a hot topic. So thank you guys for input on that. Going into, how are we doing on time, Jared? We got about 20 minutes. 20 minutes? All right, so one more topic of 5 minutes and I'm gonna get into some Q&A with everybody. The last piece that I wanna touch on is, again, this is a general statement, you guys. This is actually just not even about the cleaning industry as a whole, but just if time, money, resources weren't an issue, right? Because those are always the issue. Like, what would you guys on this panel be doing in the next 5 years to create happiness for yourself?
Well, I'm 74, been married 52 years, only been home 40 of them because I travel a lot, so we're like newlyweds. I'm hoping in the next 5 years I make it. I'm not in a nursing home drooling on a wheelchair, so I'll be all right at that. But I must tell you, this point in my life, and doing it, did I ever think I was going to be a janitor? And I made a very good living doing this, and I love what I do. I'm passionate. I'm very content with myself now. I'm content with what I did. I still believe that you have to be bloody before you succeed. I'm not crazy about second and third generations on some of the companies that I see because they're just living off mom and dad's money and they're enjoying it. And I've seen too many companies go to the second and third generation falter and be sold and break up everything that the foundation was there. And Spartan's a perfect example. You are now seeing the third generation of Spartan, okay? And the grandfather many years ago didn't have all this, all right? Steve Swigert started in the plant. John Swigert worked in the plant. I mean, they weren't given anything. They earned it. So I think you have to be bloodied. You have to, dust yourself off, like you guys said. Tommy, you guys alluded to it. Jason, you have also, it's just that I'm at a great point, and I'm hoping that each and every one of you in this room get to the contentment that I'm at. I don't ever want to leave this industry. My wife keeps saying, you're going to work again, you're crazy, you've been leaving me for 50 years. Hey, I like what I do. Everybody's nice to me. I come home, you got to yell at me. But no, that's where I'm very content now, and I hope at this point you're content, and I'm very happy that I picked this industry.
In the next 5 years, I'm 54 now, I'll be 59 then. Happiness is going to come and go, right? I mean, we're going to have those peaks, we're going to have those valleys. Joy is forever, so really that I could be present. We spend a lot of time, I was joking with somebody the other day that they said, how you doing? I said, I don't know, because my planning is in 25 and 26, my marketing is in fall, my purchasing is now, my reconciliation is 3 months ago. Oh, where am I? So to really be present, and I would say try and be present, because when you meet those people who are really truly present, they're fascinating. Yeah. I really, my prayer for me is that, that I continue to find joy in everything, in the peaks and the valleys, because we learn from the valleys that I'm not afraid to fail. And that kind of goes back to that separation of who I am and what I do. And that we take, that I take risks over the next couple of years. Being a procurement guy, obviously I am risk averse.
Risk averse.
And that there's fun, that I enjoy my wife of 26 years and we enjoy each other, that I watch my kids, as they're 24 and 20 and they grow up and they really grow to be their own people, and how they succeed and how they measure success, not in obviously financial terms and security is important, but how are they successful, and how am I successful into pouring back into the next generation? I have an immense amount of hope for that group that's 16 to 24. It's a super well-driven, super motivated group if you really kind of tap into them. We all know, we hear about the millennials and all that group. And that 16 to 24 group is looking at that group going, wait, we can do more, and we can solve things, and we can have a purpose. So we talk to our kids all the time that we're not here by accident, right? Every one of us had lots of choices of where to go, how to start a business, where to do. The companies we all work for had lots of choices on who to pick, right? So we're here on purpose, for a purpose, and so how do we fulfill that purpose? That's my next 5.
Very good.
Well, it's an interesting question, very timely question, as a matter of fact. Harold will understand this a little bit. So I'm sitting in our board meeting a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago, I don't know. And all of a sudden, succession planning comes up on the screen, and my retirement date's up there. It's like, I don't mean to be disrespectful to the board here, but do I have any input to this? That's just it's just a placeholder. It's just a placeholder. Like, okay. All right, got that. So anyway, got me thinking, and it does. It takes me back to, they had mentioned the James Purcell Award and that, and so Jay was the guy that presented that to me on stage, and it was overwhelming. It was embarrassing too, because the reason is because I start bawling. And he was right there with me to kind of hug me and kind of help me keep it together. But what hit me, and I know these guys to this day, they're like, there's no crying in the janitorial industry. I know. But anyway, the reason that it hit me was that because the relationships that I've built in this industry, I bring nothing to the game, man. I'm telling you, I bring very little to the game. There's not a lot going on up here, I can tell you that. But except for the ability to sit down and have a drink and a cigar with somebody or whatever, and just really get to know somebody and appreciate who they are, and to really learn to love that person, And if I can realize that that's what I'm really taking out of this industry, forget the awards, forget the success, forget the resume, blah, 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 and realize that that's what I'm really taking out of this industry, then over the next 5 years, that's what I've got to focus on. And I hope that some of you guys felt that, as you've interacted with me over the last 24 hours, because I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to be really fulfilling for me.
Good for you.
Good for you. Thank you.
This guy's so humble. And they're talking about, there's nothing going on in there. I know better. Man, 5 years, I'm 48 now. 5 years from now, I guess for me, and I want to say this, I want to go back to talking about humble and him. Whatever God gave to him at one point when he came to me, we served on the board together, and he said, hey, what do you think about possibly next steps in the BSCAI? And I remember going, what are you talking about? He's like, well, if there's an opportunity for you to elevate to be president, this guy's a president. I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And it was that inner push. It was that, hey, you know what, Jay, you got what it takes. You can do it. I think you ought to pursue it. And I take that to say my next 5 years, same thing. I want to incorporate some fun. Trust me, to me, I incorporate work and fun wherever I go. Golf has become a big thing to me. So wherever I travel around the world, I usually have a set of golf clubs along with work. It just, to me, I don't call it work-life balance, it's work-life harmony. it just to me, if you ask me today, my old life was running around all day looking at the clock. We had a busy lunch schedule. There were so many things happening, and now it's like I get to paint my picture. I get to do that, and so do most of us in this room. We get to wake up every morning, most of us, to say, hey, what am I doing today, this week, this month, this year, next 5 years, God willing. So my goal is always to kind of give back, help other folks in the industry to grow. I think it's very important to me. That's what got me here. And not only that, I go back to even another subset of just folks that were off, that just took the wrong path, got themselves in trouble, don't know what to do, how to do. I try to be that beacon of light that said, man, you know what, you can do this if you put in the work. This ain't no microwave button, you go over there and push this button and all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind, it's a growth, it's getting around people that can encourage you, uplift you, it's a back and forth. And I think that's where I like to spend my next 5 years.
Nice. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. It's fun to see where you're gonna be in the next 5 years. So let's put it. I'm gonna put it over to you guys now. A little bit of a Q&A. Any kind of questions that you guys need to ask? Again, there's a wealth of knowledge up here. Just kick it off. Anybody, raise your hand. Anybody that has a question for anybody on the panel right now? Daniel?
Yeah, this is for Jason. You said there's 15 companies that are using a certain platform for the AI that pulls out the KPIs. What platform is that, if you mind me asking?
You know what I'll do? I'll get that for you. There was a gentleman who was a vintage speaker that came in, and what he's done is he's been able to go out and create individual bots for every company that you can buy yourself and have. I'll get your information and I'll make sure you get it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Luis, go for it.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's more, I thank you, I guess, because as Tom mentioned, it's very different between being on social media or making your highlights, and that's what affects many people because they are comparing their regular lives with the highlights with someone else, and then you suck, right? But for me, that's something that I learned, and I just heard you guys saying that, and I think it's valuable for all of us here. And if you look around, like we have heavy accents, like myself, like my Brazilian friends here, we have Hispanic people, black, white. We are all people, right? And we are in the same boat here. And to hear about not fame, not money, not possessions, but relevance. How relevant can you be for your peers, for your industry, for your community? And that's inspiring. And that's what we heard here. And for that, I thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Can I just say one
Yeah,
thing?
go for it.
And then, because Jared's
Jared's
closing in
looking at
like
us.
a vulture. He keeps moving closer
he
and
keeps
closer and closer. It's like, okay. Just two very quick things. First of all, I really knew little about cleaning and cocktails a year ago. I said, who is this guy? He's just he's just trying to, whatever. And I'm starting to sound like Frank as I get older. And anyway, and then having spent some time with Ricky and really understanding, this is a very unique and in all the years that I've been in the industry, platform for us to be able to get the word out that we are professionals, that we can improve the lives of other people. And I never really realized that at first. And I think it's a really, really good program that I fully support at this point. And now I can check it off. I was on cleaning and cocktails. The second thing is just the value of your, and Rob can tell you this, or all of you know this, I guess, but just the value of your vendor partners. And I can tell you that I've known the Spartan guys for decades. And people say, well, why are you with Spartan? Why aren't you, And I always say, I call them, I'm on the West Coast, so I say they're 8 o'clock on a Friday night, guys. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, when I got a problem at 8 o'clock, which is 11 o'clock out east, they pick up the phone. They pick up the phone. They realize that the people side of the business is the most important part of the business, and I will tell you that I count the Spartan group among my friends as well. So.
Very good stuff.
Guys, let's give keep a round of applause going for Spartan, for the panel. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Good stuff, good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't go anywhere yet. So, couple things I want to say. So I think to me, this is kind of, we've been doing this, I've been in this role now for 9 years at Spartan. And we've been doing this, and Frank started this seminar before I even joined the team. And what's really exciting is we kind of went out on a limb here, right? Like we've never, if you've ever been to one of our BSC seminars like this before, we've never done anything like this. So this panel didn't happen by accident. Like Frank and my team, and we didn't just sit there and throw a bunch of names in the air and say, whatever lands on this table, that's what we're gonna ask, right? I do hope to see many of you in the future also up here on some panels. I think that'd be great. But you know, in 9 years, so Rob and I have known, he said he's been in the industry for 18 months. I think we met your second day on the job, right? So I mean, the things that Rob's taught me about logistics and about vendor relationships, immeasurable, right? So that's why I wanted to put him on the panel. Jason's one of those guys where he's an open book, and he'll talk to you about anything. He'll answer questions that you have in the industry. Just when I started seeing him at BSCIs, he always made a point to come over, talk to me, say how's it going, talk about different things. So what he shared today, pretty powerful stuff, right? And where he's gone and what he came from, just awesome. Tom Cruzy, right? He has a very unique ability to, when you're talking to Tom, you feel like you're the most important person in the world, right? Like he is very humble about it, but he does an amazing job of just really engaging with you. I've known Tom now for 9 years since I started this role, and I mean, he offers up his home to you. He's that kind of a guy, and what Harold said is all very true. Yeah. Ricky, when I started this, Frank was like, hey, listen, you gotta meet this guy, Ricky. He's just awesome. He's doing all these crazy things. You know, Frankie said they're crazy, right? When I loved when Ricky asked about AI, the first person to answer was Frank. Frank started talking about AI. I don't even know if he mentioned AI, what he talked about, but it was awesome, right? But so Frank was like, you gotta meet Ricky. So I think I was at your second event that you had, because that was the one you had offsite. The first one or two you had at your office. And when I heard his message and what he's trying to do to bring, like he said, bring a community to this industry. Just awesome. I was like, I'm on board. Like, I want to see what else he's going to do. And what he's done just over the 7-8 years that I've known him, just phenomenal job of bringing this all together and making it professional, right? So taking us to the next level. And then Frankie, I mean, you'll get me in tears like Tom said if I start talking about what Frankie's done for me. We spent the first 3 years I was in this role every day of the week together somewhere in this country calling on Building Service.
And we gained 20 pounds because we didn't miss a meal. That's
definitely how to do that. So first off, I want to say thank you to Spartan for allowing us to kind of do this unique opportunity. And really thank this panel for what they just did. I mean, that was awesome. And it sounds like you guys all agreed from what you said. Just awesome what we got out of this. So I'm excited about it. I do have a little parting gift for everyone here. So I got a little something for you. We'll give you that. But again, thank you very much.